I have strep today, so I'm definitely in the mood to rant about some makeup I don't like. Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, anti-haul. Last one of the year, actually. I'm sure that in the next couple weeks of holiday frenzy, there will be an onslaught, a barrage of new releases, but there have, of course, been a lot of things coming out lately that I have some thoughts about. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Please check out the limited edition holiday merch. Again, 50% of the proceeds will go to St. Jude's. Full details of this look should already be on Instagram. I'll show you what I'm wearing later on in the video. And please excuse the fact that I sound like a frog. Cheers, let's do this.
Why?
I really did not think that Jaclyn Hill was going to come out with a new release within this year. I think it would have been a lot less sketchy and a lot smarter of a business decision to stay away, at least for the rest of 2019. There's just been a lot of stuff going on with these new highlighters. I watched Raw Beauty Christie's review of them. They do look really beautiful, and it's very interesting to me that this would have been a launch I would have wholeheartedly supported had it been last year. But with everything that's gone down, at the very least, I don't agree with how things have been handled professionally by Jaclyn as a business owner, and at the very most, I don't trust her. As a reviewer, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Jaclyn's brand and Jaclyn as a whole is pretty radioactive. And even with Christie's review, I saw some people criticizing her for even giving the launch that kind of exposure, even though she did call out what she thought was wrong, and I think it was a very honest review. I wouldn't want to bring that to my channel, but also it's nothing unique. There are many highlighters I love and enjoy from companies I trust. So the only thing from this release that actually looked very nice are those highlighter palettes. I think they're beautiful, and I love that there are two different ones instead of like one palette that has 4 different shades of highlighters in them that go across a different range of skin tones. I think having 2 different colorways for a highlighter palette like that is a lot better of an idea than just like trying to fit everybody into one palette. Inevitably, half the shades are not going to work for a certain person. Loose highlighters, love the idea of them. Never use them myself. And then the brushes just look like overpriced repackaged Morphe brushes. So I sound like I'm Tarte. Imagine how tired we are. I've honestly been rooting for Tarte. They're so basic, but I like a lot of their products. And I feel like their releases this year haven't been as ridiculously stupid as last year's. And now they're collabing with Lele Pons, who beyond just not being a funny comedian at all, is not a good person in what is quite possibly one of the largest cash grabs I've ever seen. It's basic colors, very marketable, and I'm sure it's going to end up on the Christmas wish list or whatever of thousands of 10 to 12-year-old girls, because those are the only demographics that think that Lele Pons is funny. I do believe that beauty should be accessible to everybody, and it shouldn't be a community that we necessarily gatekeep, but I do think it's really important to acknowledge when people are tapping into the beauty world and trying to come out with products even though they have like no connection to makeup whatsoever. Celebrities coming out with beauty lines despite not really knowing anything about beauty lines, and the worst mind comedian ever creating a makeup palette. Yeah, so this Kylie holiday collection, she almost got me.
Rise and shine.
I really like this collection a lot, actually. I think the palette looks beautiful. The shimmers in there look amazing, but they're not pressed glitters, which I despise. I actually do enjoy Kylie's formula, and I think this entire collection is cohesive. It makes sense. They took a concept, a Christmas palette that is very basic at its core, but somehow managed to make it look fun and not completely boring. The palette, I fully would not mind owning this, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to buy it, if that makes sense. I do think it's beautiful. If you own the Modern Renaissance, you don't need this palette. But I just know that if I added this to my collection, it probably would like wear off in terms of novelty by the end of the holiday season. That's one of the main things I look for in new releases is, does this thing have like a longevity in my collection? Does the novelty wear off after the season's gone? I really want to try something from M Cosmetics. M Cosmetics is Michelle Phan's brand. The blush serum drops from earlier this year look right up my alley, but I haven't really gotten around to trying anything from them, even though I think their branding is beautiful and their products that they've been coming out with have been released at nice intervals and just really well thought out releases. They're coming out with a new Magic Hour collection. It says it's inspired by the time of the day where the sky goes from pink to orange to gold. I love that inspiration behind the entire collection, and I think that inspiration is really reflected within the products. There's a small little handheld eyeshadow palette for $38, which I think is a little bit pricey for a brand where they haven't really come out with eyeshadow palettes that we know the quality of. It looks to be pretty basic though, kind of reminded me of the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette from earlier this year, which I already own. There's a Heaven's Glow Radiant Veil blush and a lip cushion tinted lip luminizer, and I feel very personally attacked by these product names. I don't know about you guys, but I am a sucker and a hoe for a really deliciously named product. In fact, I have a list in my iPhone notes. The list is titled Sexy Words, and it's just my favorite words in the English language. It's about 300 words and counting right now. Linguistics. However, I know damn well that as much as this blush sounds beautiful, I don't wear shimmery blushes. I would rather put on a matte blush and then cover my skin in copious amounts of dewy setting spray, if that makes sense. Then this lip luminizer, it's $22 for pretty much like a sheerish tinted lip balm, which I don't need. I really want to try things from Cosmetics, but I don't need this particular collection. So Frozen 2 has come out and I'm already scarred. Frozen 1 came out around the time that I was babysitting these two kids. Lovely kids, honestly, but all they wanted to watch and all they sang all day while I was with them was Frozen. So I just can't watch that movie anymore. But Colourpop is collabing with Disney again and they're coming out with a Frozen collection. There's an Anna palette, there's an Elsa palette. I think the color schemes are actually really nice. They both have pressed glitters in them, so that's Elsa palette. I love that it's a good cool tone color scheme. We don't see that very often from makeup brands. Also, I think a navy blue would have been really well suited to this palette itself. I really love the artwork that they did for the entire Disney collection as well as this. And I know it's gonna sell. It's gonna be a really great present for a lot of like tween girls. But for me, neither of the palettes really spoke to me. Neither of them really inspired me to create a certain look. Usually when I look at a palette that I'm interested in getting, my brain immediately like comes up with an eye look that I would like to do with those colors I'm seeing. These, I just like looked at them and I was like, yeah, okay. I hope going into 2020 we can leave behind the mega big ultra huge eyeshadow palettes trend because I'm not about it. Very much over like really big palettes. But Lorac Cosmetics is coming out with this artistry book palette and I'm gonna be honest, it's really pretty. If I didn't already own multiple rainbow palettes, I think this would be a great one to get. The shimmers in there have that kind of like multi-dimensional pressed foil effect, kind of like the Huda Beauty New Nude palette where they have those like white chunks in them that give them some extra dimension on the eyes. So I think this would be beautiful, especially because I feel like the shimmers in the James Charles palette are really not my favorite. The mattes in here look beautiful, but again, I already own multiple rainbow palettes and this is huge. I would love to know from you guys, like, what's your sweet spot for the number of pans inside an eyeshadow palette? For me, it's like 10 to 14, but I know some people like 5 pan palettes. I know some people like 35 pan palettes, and all of those people work at Morphe. Okay, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't need the ABH palette vault. Towards the holiday season, every year there's always a brand that comes out with some kind of palette vault where you can get like all the palettes from a certain collection bundled together. I believe Urban Decay has done it many times with their naked palettes, and this year Anastasia is coming out with a palette vault. I think that bundles in general are pretty wasteful because unless you actually genuinely wanted each item within that bundle, you're essentially paying for a bunch of things you won't use and a bunch of things you didn't even want in the first place just because you're getting a better deal. I feel the kind of same way about subscription boxes. Like, why would I pay $25 a month to get products I didn't even want in the first place? I would rather just add things to my collection mindfully and buy the things I actually did want. It's a good deal. Like, if you don't own the Modern Renaissance and the Soft Glam and you want to buy the Modern Renaissance and the Soft Glam, I think this would be a great opportunity to purchase that. I've heard a lot of really good things about Milani, particularly about their eyeshadows. They're coming out with a new palette called the Gilded Gold eyeshadow palette. Heavily remind me of the Natasha Denona gold palette from last year holiday. It does also seem to be pretty shimmer heavy. Really, like, I thought that this was either the Alter Ego dupe palette for the ND Gold or the actual ND Gold with some Milani products around it. So that was like kind of weird for me to see. Or maybe my brain was frying this morning when I was planning out this video. I don't know. Could be one of those two. I got a lot of tags on this product on Instagram, and when I like opened up to see like what the tags were for and I saw what the product was, I was like, y'all, have you seen how pale I am?
Not so pale.
Fenty Beauty's coming out with a new addition to their Kilowatt highlighter family, and it's the Ruby Riches Metallic Brick Red. So essentially this is a like very shimmery bright red blush, but it's pretty much a highlighter formula, so it's definitely going to come off a lot more pigmented than your typical blush, which means it would be a disaster on me. And it's kind of like the same idea as the Trophy Wife, which we're going to talk about in a second. Trophy Wife highlighter was not made to be like something super wearable that you could wear every day, so I appreciate that this is a kind of like fun, funky, fresh thing. Doesn't really make sense for me, but I am really glad that they renamed it to Ruby Riches. I'm not really somebody who gets super easily offended, but I was really offended by the original name just in terms of like my culture. So this Kilowatt's beautiful, but would not look good on me. And then because Fenty wanted to attack me, they're also coming out with a complete Trophy Wife collection. Yeah, I mean, it's gold. Wow. Trophy Wife I did own for a bit of time, but then I was like, why do I have this? It was pretty on the lids, but I wasn't using it enough to justify keeping it, so I decluttered that a while ago. Honestly, the only thing in this collection that I really deeply wanted is that Trophy Wife Gloss Bomb. That, how dare Rihanna come out with something this beautiful? But it only comes in a package deal, so you can't actually get that gloss bomb on its own. You have to buy the other products in the collection. And I don't want a gritty gold glitter lipstick, gold loose powder, and a metallic eyeliner. I just want that gloss. I feel tortured. Just like those new colors of the Fenty Gloss Bomb that came out in that limited edition set, Nisa was shaking. I feel the pain now. I'm not gonna buy this whole set just for a gloss. Like, no. If anybody gets the set and doesn't want their gloss, send it to me and I will Venmo you. But I'm not buying this set just for a beautiful gold disgustingly gorgeous lip gloss. This KKW Beauty and Mario palette, I do actually think it's really pretty. Like, it's basic colors that I already own multiple times over, so I don't need this palette, obviously. But it makes sense as a color scheme, especially for something that Mario put together. It looks like an amalgamation of his best looks on Kim, and I think it's a nice palette. It makes sense. And I honestly I don't really think that anybody needs these types of colors. I think everybody owns these shades already. I don't know if Morphe has just released not a ton of new things this year, or if they've released a ton of new things that I haven't really been paying attention. I remember their foundation and concealer launch earlier this year. That was a fever dream. That feels like so long ago. But like for the rest of the year, I feel like they haven't really come out with anything major that has been talked about. But they're coming out with 2 new eyeshadow palettes. The first is 39L palette, basically the glittery version of the James Charles palette. I actually see the niche that this is trying to fill because the shimmers in the James Charles palette, they weren't like anything crazy punchy or anything. They were just like standard shimmers, not a ton of dimension to them. So if you have that palette and you wanted some like shimmers to go with it, I think this palette actually makes sense. I don't hate this palette as a concept. I do think it's too big. 39 shades obviously, and $42, which is really, really high for Morphe. That is how I feel about this Hit the Lights palette. It's pretty, it makes sense I guess, but it's huge and kind of unnecessary to me. Morphe's also coming out with these 2 new 18 pan palettes, which are $18 each. So that's more of like the original kind of Morphe pricing that I have come to expect from them as a brand. One of these is called Truth or Bear. It's the most boring palette I've ever seen. The other one though, it's a blue themed palette. There's some really beautiful shades in there, like a periwinkle blue that I think is gorgeous. And maybe it's just because I've unfollowed a lot of them, but I don't feel like I've seen a lot of Morphe affiliates like pushing their products lately, which is kind of strange. This is undoubtedly the ugliest palette I've ever seen in my life. The Physicians Formula is coming out with the Gold Vault 24 karat Gold Collagen Face Palette. This is such an ugly palette. Like, just layout wise, aesthetically, it's not appealing to the eyes. I think centering an entire palette's color scheme around the shade gold can be done in a very nice way, but an entire palette of different shades of like varying murkiness of gold. The ABH and Norvina mini palettes. I honestly just think that these kind of look cheap. I think they did a good job of like boiling down the color story of the bigger Norvina palettes into smaller ones. So I can appreciate that these are like mini palettes that actually make sense as a mini palette. I think the more like berry tone and purple one is pretty, and I think the colors they picked out are nice. The other one just feels a lot more disjointed in terms of color scheme. Like there's a random berry shade in there. Of course, if I see them in stores and I swatch them and they're amazing, I might change my mind, but these just, maybe it's just because of the oversaturation of the drops from ABH, or just because these aren't actually that fun to me, but I felt nothing when I looked at them. And I've never felt like that from an ABH release. I've always felt something. Whenever I've looked at a new Anastasia palette, these I was just like, yeah, it's makeup. That kind of broke my heart. So I watched the last episode of the Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star infomercial. I was very happy to see my friend Hannah Smoky Glow in there. But basically what's happening is they're re-releasing the Mini Controversy palette from their original collaboration collection, but with that one green shade in there that everyone got mad at them for getting rid of. I'm just cringing thinking about how many diehard stans are going to rebuy a palette that they already own every color in except for that one shade just to get that green shade. People are 100% going to do that. People who already own the original Mini Controversy palette are going to get the exact same palette with one extra shade in there just because they want the green shade. And it's, when will you learn that your actions have consequences? Yeah. And then the final thing I wanted to anti-haul is new Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. I've seen this palette in action. I've seen some people that I follow using this palette and creating ridiculously stunning looks. This palette is beautiful. Like, I want it. But the color scheme to me doesn't really bring anything new to my collection. I think the packaging though is so pretty, like kind of a step up from their regular packaging, and I think it's a beautiful palette. Like, it's gorgeous. I don't need it, and if I see it in stores I will swatch it and I probably will buy it, so I just need to avoid this one. Alright, those are all the products I'm not buying, and then just to add a little bit of positivity into the anti-haul, I like to do 5 products at the end that I am planning on buying. So, number 1, this Nabla Dreamy 2 palette. Oh, I am so offended by this. I'm so offended by this. It's so beautiful. I would use every single shade in there. It works for my neutral days because I don't wear anything other than brown to school. But the shimmers in there are beautiful, dimensional, stunning. Packaging is beautiful. I love Nabla's formula. Why? The new Patrick Ta Beauty blushes, these look so beautiful. I really enjoy all the things I've tried from Patrick Ta so far. They're my favorite type of blush as well. They're like kind of matte but radiant in finish, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but there's like no shimmer inside the actual formula, but they like show up as really beautiful and glowy on the face. The entire Melt Holiday collection, I'm actually wearing the Vita palette right now on my eyes. This, beautiful, love it. They did an amazing job with this. I'm also wearing the Cultura liner. right now, but I actually had to stop myself on the website from buying this. It's the Illumination highlighter. It's an iridescent pink opalescent highlighter, and it has this beautiful skeleton pressed into it. It's so beautiful. But the reason I didn't buy it with the Vita palette was because I don't look good in pink highlighters, even though this one looks to be more of a champagne type highlighter, so it might work on me. And I haven't heard great things about Melt highlighters, I've just heard that they're okay. So if you know anything about this highlighter, please tell me, because I want it so bad. Alright guys, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's anti-haul, but I enjoyed looking through all these new releases and just chatting about them with you guys. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed down below, and also follow me on Instagram to see makeup looks like this posted in photos where you can't tell that I have strep throat. And if you made it to the very end of this video, you get the bonus meme. Love you.